9:37 Central African time, and you're still tuned in to News and Views. Myself, Salailo Makwidi, and our next interview is proudly brought to you by the Government Communication and Information System. Now, South Africa's democracy is built on one simple but very, very powerful idea: the idea that every citizen has the right to choose who governs them. But that right only has meaning if people understand the electoral process and, I think most importantly, participate in it. Now, with the 2026 local government elections drawing closer, the IEC, the Independent Electoral Commission, is intensifying its voter education campaign to ensure that South Africans are informed, are prepared, and most importantly, are ready to make their voices heard at the ballot box. Joining us this morning is Diana Mola, Regional Outreach Officer at the Independent Electoral Commission, to give us more insight on how exactly they are going about it, how they're going about making sure that all of us as South Africans participate in this very, very important democratic process. Mr. Diana, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to News and Views. Really appreciate you giving us the time.
Hi, good morning to you, Stella, and good morning to our listeners. And thank you very much for the warm welcome.
No, pleasure is all ours. And I want to start and jump right into our conversation. I want to start with the basics. We often hear people say, especially in the townships and the far-flung areas and villages of our country, people say, you know what, my vote doesn't make a difference. The decisions of who's going to be the next leader is already predetermined. We know who's going to win the elections. Why is it important, especially for the IEC, to make people understand that their single vote is very, very important in a democracy like that of South Africa?
I think it's very important, and it actually takes the precedence from what transpired in terms of our democracy. And it is just as important for us to start by recognizing the profound impact that comes with each vote. And I'm saying this because any vote, as much as we participate in our democracy, it actually strengthens, the journey of the South African democracy. Why is it important? There are so many reasons that one can attach to that, but voting is a reminder for us as it relates to the hard-earned right to self-determination and equality. And as we vote as South Africans, we honor the struggle of our past and we take the responsibility of having to make sure that we make our future better. And of course, as voting as South Africans, it actually ensures the achievement that was obtained in 1994 and also it strives in having to make sure that our democracy evolves, our democracy becomes strong, and it also gives us the right and having to make sure that we don't just become passengers in the progress or in the development of our country, but we
Mm,
also become part of the whole process. And of course, it also ensures that people are afforded a chance in having to voice out, to make their choices, in having to ensure that they have the people that they want to represent them, to lead them, to also be party to the development with. Because basically, when you participate in elections, you are basically coming into a contract with the person that you've voted for. Because you are
mm,
saying to this person, go and speak for me, go and represent me, and you therefore have to hold that person accountable. And most importantly, it earns me the right, or the voter a right, in having to influence policies, in having to make some influence in terms of governance, and having to
mm,
make sure that the composition of the government that is going to be there, that is going to be sitting on behalf of the voters, it is a collective decision of the electorate. But most importantly, it is your voice. It gives
mm,
you the right
mm,
to talk. It gives you the right to question. It gives you the right to even say, but why not? Why this say and not why that way? It is
mm,
the power that goes with your having to influence the values, the power of having to influence, the decision that affect the communities and the country at large. And it is the right thing to do. It is for
mm,
that
mm.
reason that we encourage people to always participate in issues of governance as well as voting.
And I think that's the bottom line. It is the right thing to do. I want to come to the work that the IEC does, because many people know that the IEC runs elections, but there's so much more to your work. What exactly is the commission's mandate, and why voter education is such an important part of it?
Absolutely. There's a lot beyond just voting. You would know that the IEC is a Chapter 9 institution. We're established in terms of the Constitution. And we are established in having to make sure that we strengthen the South African constitutional democracy. Moreover, and above that, we have constitutional mandates, and these are having to manage the national, provincial, as well as local government elections. But we also have the responsibility of having to make sure that we ensure that those elections are free and fair. But more so, after the people have voted, we have the responsibility of announcing those outcomes, the results of the elections. But we
Mm,
also have the legislative mandates. And one of those is for us to promote voter education. And when we promote voter education, basically, we interact with all communities at all times, inside and outside of election years, so as to inform them, to educate them, to encourage them, to give them hope, and to make sure that at the end of it all, they take the responsibility of having to make sure that they participate in elections. And this on its own will then empower those that are going to be representing us at the national sphere of government to formulate proper policies, because we shall have made input, but also provide some input as it relates to our provincial legislatures, as it relates to their competencies, but more so also assist in having to make sure that our municipalities, our municipal councils are in a position in having to make sure that they also formulate systems and procedures, structures and organizational systems that are going to make sure that they give service delivery to our people. We educate, we inform, we engage in a lot more other activities to everyone, all constituencies, without any favor or prejudice. And those are
mm.
some of the things that we do.
Let's talk about those practical steps that the IEC is taking to ensure that every eligible South African knows where, when, and how to vote. I think the period of the 2026 local government elections is nearing, very
Yeah,
very close. I think November, if I'm not
yeah.
mistaken, is the month that we'll be heading to the polls. What practical steps have you taken? What kind of activities have you guys put into place to make sure that people know exactly the process of voting, and as I mentioned, where, when, and how it should go by?
Slilo, we continuously engage our communities at different levels, at different areas, different constituencies, like I alluded to earlier on. And we do this with an intention of having to promote, civic democracy, balloting, as well as voter education. And we do this in a form of having interventions like workshops, workshops, dialogues, roundtables, debates, exhibitions, any other activation that is actually going to give us confidence that we shall have educated and we shall have given out information, disseminated information to those people that would have been there at that point in time. We go to all entities, all stakeholders are very important to us. We go to schools, we go to universities, we go to churches, we interact with NGOs, non-government organizations, we engage with faith-based organizations, we engage with institutions for people with disabilities. Everybody is important, everyone is important. We actually go to communities, to the people where they are. As I'm talking to you now, we have a
Mm,
cohort of the people that we pronounce as municipal outreach coordinators. These are our foot soldiers. These are the link of between the IEC and the communities out there. They go out, they educate, they go out, even though we also do door to door, just as to
mm,
make sure that everybody gets the information. So that is how we reach out to the people. And of course, maybe let me also take this opportunity, and request our listeners to invite us. Call
mm,
us if you know that we've got a group of about 30 people, 20 people, 50 people, whatever the number. Just call us. Let us come and enlighten, let us come enlighten, let us come and enlighten, let us come and engage those communities as it relates to issues of election processes.
Mm, mm.
Slime.
One of the programs which I think that you guys have introduced, which really impressed me, is the school's democracy program. Okay, can you give us more insight on that, and why is it so important to try and attract young people, people that are
Yeah.
still in school before they're even eligible to vote, to be part of the electoral process?
Absolutely. That is one of our special programs. And this is a program that we really hold close to our hearts because we predominantly interact with learners at schools.
Mm,
And this is from primary schools to high schools. And with an intention of having to make sure that we inculcate the culture of responsible democracy, not only just to engrave it in the brains of the kids that it starts with you now before you can even begin to take it elsewhere. It takes your responsibility now before you can even want to take it out to your community. But of course, yes, we have collaborated with the Department of Education, and this is a program that has been running from, I think, 2013. And of course, we've got a memorandum of understanding with them, and we do several interactions with them or activations with them. And what is even good about it is that it is in line with the curriculum of life orientation as well as social sciences. We have even developed materials that are in line with their curriculum that is sort of a teaching aid or a value add for educators in having to make sure that they win, the IC win, but most importantly, the learners win. And when the learners win and they grow with that knowledge of having to take responsibility, the community will win. And ultimately, the country becomes a better place for everyone. And yes, we do have it. And we predominantly run this program in the month of April because this is the month that is pronounced as Freedom Month. We go to
mm.
schools, we arrange with them, we access the school. We even do mock elections, Lilo. We do
Wow.
mock elections for our learners, yes. And, setting up the voting station, upholding the integrity that we uphold when we go to normal voting station. Technically, normally is voting stations because this
Mm,
is where our adults go to. The very same environment that you get to see at the voting station is the very same environment that we uphold even at schools, regardless of the grade that the learners will be in. And we have sample ballot papers, of course. And this we do after we've explained, all the election processes, the elections systems, and how to go about it, the importance of averting or even avoiding spoiled ballot papers. This is with an intention of having to inculcate the culture of responsibility, to inculcate the culture of having to know that it starts with me now. It starts with me having to acquire knowledge because when I acquire knowledge, knowledge is power, and I will be able to do the right thing as the citizen of this country. Slaylo?
I don't think there's anything to add after that, Diana. Thank you so much for joining us. I think this is where we're going to leave our conversation. But yeah, really appreciate the wonderful work that you guys are doing promoting democracy and democratic processes in our country. And yeah, hope we chat again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure. I think on behalf of the IEC, we really need to appreciate you guys for affording us these types of platforms because this is one of the platforms that we are able to reach our communities out there. Thank you very much.
There you go, Diana Mola, Regional Outreach Officer at the Independent Electoral Commission. And yeah, for more information on voter registrations, voting stations, and the upcoming 2026 local government elections, visit the IEC's official platforms or your nearest IEC offices. And once again, this interview was proudly brought to you by the Government Communication and Information System. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with you after this.